This is about my education. Now, most people's education is generally reduced to just a biography, curricula vitae. For example, at Fairleigh Dickinson University, I have been a teacher for a long time, an adjunct professor, dealing with helping students learn critical learning skills. In fact, the dean of the school, Ron Calusi, asked me would I teach full-time. And I said I'd love to, but I just don't have the time. But I would, on a regular basis, come over and teach the critical thinkers, generally those going for master's degrees, on topics that would empower them, given the tools they need. And that's exactly what I did. We had such large numbers of students and learners that would sit in that we had to do it in their auditorium. When I came to New York City, the way that I help people understand the health issues, environmental issues, human rights issues was to write for a publication called Caveat Emptor. And that was kind of like the leading watchdog publication. Then one day, one of the people from College in New Rochelle asked, I read you all the time, Caveat Emptor. We really need you to be teaching students this information. They're getting the basics. They're getting, they're reading, writing, math, and a lot of the humanities, which they need, but they're not understanding how to be the citizen activist that we also need. So I took a teaching appointment at College in New Rochelle, and I work with primarily minority students. A lot of people just could not get enough information. I would give them tasks about going into their different communities and finding out what wasn't right and why, and what would they do to change the underlying problems in their communities. From there, I went over to Pratt Institute, and I headed the whole health division, and I was there for years. John Lobel, one of the leading professors and one of the leading architects at Pratt Institute, invited me over. They wanted to know, did I really know my stuff? So they would challenge me for hours upon biochemistry, organic chemistry, everything you could imagine. And I aced it, and so I spent about 3 hours going into the Krebs cycle and why we need vitamin C and what role fiber plays. Now, we're talking about the microbiome on good bacteria 45 years before anyone knew about it today. All right, that's how ahead of the curve that thinking was at the time by the natural hygienists. Pratt Institute worked out beautifully, and I taught a lot of students there. I'd received my undergraduate degree, my Bachelor of Science degree in clinical nutrition from Edison State College, one of the state colleges of New Jersey, and a plan came up where I was asked, why don't we have someone teach a class and then teach a course and then teach a whole curriculum in alternative approaches to disease? And after a year of negotiating, the college officially allowed, after a long syllabus was created, to teach a fully accredited whole course that led to a degree in clinical nutrition. So you got your Bachelor of Science in clinical nutrition, but I created the whole curriculum, all the classes. So I had all these wonderful instructors, all these different people that I knew were teaching classes. So we had around 20 faculty, 5,000 students applied. We accepted about 3,000, and over the next 4 years, we taught. In fact, we had so many students, we had to rent a high school auditorium 5 nights a week over on the east side to get all the students in. And it was critical thinking, but using state-of-the-art alternative and natural approaches. And when our first class was graduated, we were so happy. It was so exciting. These were really in-depth discussions, raw foods and enzyme-rich foods and rebalancing body chemistry. They had courses in inorganic chemistry and organic chemistry and biochemistry and anatomy, etc. They had everything. And these are some of the most educated, brilliant therapists now in the United States. In fact, our final evaluation showed that we were equal to MIT's master's program in clinical nutrition. How about that? So that was one of the most important areas of my education, creating the only whole degree program that was taught outside the university, but accredited by the university. Degrees came from Edison State College.
When it came to the PhD, I chose a university that was willing, after discussion, to allow me to do a multidisciplinary degree. It would be entitled Human Nutrition and Public Health Science. And I had 9 members to my doctoral committee, and I thought that's strange. That's an awful lot of people on your committee. I was told that the average length of time at Union Graduate School, very difficult to get into that program and even harder to get out, was about 9 to 10 years. But at the end of this whole process, I was able to graduate, and I was told it in the fastest of anyone, and that was my doctoral background.
I also taught down at the Graduate School of City University, down on Fifth Avenue. Always interesting to teach people who are coming in to learn. At the same time, they have careers and the professional class, broadening their education. And those are some of the places I've taught. New School for Social Research, I taught there.
I taught at Pratt Institute, School of Visual Arts, the New School for Social Research, College New Rochelle.
So I've taught at all these different places, and I'm happy I did.
Dr. Chester Stock at the New York Institute of Technology, and they said, Gary, we believe that our students need to know more than just the sciences, the hard sciences. They need to know about health. And a lot of our students and faculty have gone to your lectures, attended your workshops, and they suggested that you're the person that should create the curriculum. So we want you to create a master's degree in clinical nutrition and then teach it. So I agreed, and I did that. And then I received a letter from the Dean of New York College of Chiropractic and another one from a Dean of their faculty, Dr. Alan Pressman, had asked me would I create a syllabus for the first state-accredited program in nutrition to be taught at chiropractic schools, so they could legitimately offer credited courses in nutrition to expand what a chiropractic could offer the patient. Not just a subluxation, not just working on your spine and your vertebrae, but rather help you with a healthier diet, healthier lifestyle. It was approved, and for the first time in American history, all the chiropractors in America could take classes and then offer a greater opportunity to get people well and keep them well. That spread to where almost every chiropractic college in America offered the same courses.
Now, let me show you some of the types of classes I taught and actual discussions. Now, we can't play all the discussion, but we'll play maybe 5 minutes of each discussion. So here are some of the hundreds and hundreds of classes that I've taught at the graduate level.
Are you familiar with homeopathy? Do you know what homeopathy is? Homeopathy is that if you came in and you had just burnt yourself on the fire, and you were looking to help that burn, now it's blistering, and it's oozing, and it's all red and inflamed, I would probably suggest a homeopathic remedy of poison oak, or poison ivy, or poison sumac. Why? Because if you're a healthy person and you touch that, that's exactly what will happen. You'll get that blistering and swelling and inflammation and oozing. So homeopathy is based upon the laws of similars. What will cause a condition in a healthy person is what you'll use to treat the symptoms in a sick person. But you're not taking in poison ivy or poison sumac. If you did, you'd blister inside, you'd die. If you look under a microscope at anything that's homeopathy, it looks like water. If you drink it, it tastes like water. And that's why scientists in the United States and all over the world generally don't use homeopathy, because they say, well, it's just water. But there's a catch. Over 120 double-blind placebo-controlled studies shows that it works more than a placebo. Now then they scratch their head and say, gee whiz, in the Lancet, the British Medical Journal, in Pediatrics, in the Journal of Allergy, all these major peer-reviewed journals, dozens and dozens of studies, over 60 have confirmed by the strictest scientific definition that homeopathy works. It's non-toxic, it works. The confusion is they don't understand how it works. So now you got this phenomena. Do you use something that works if you don't know how it works? Well, we didn't know how aspirin worked, but we used it. In fact, even to this day, we don't know all the mechanisms. We know it'll turn off a fever, and we know it turns off pain, but we don't know all of its biological pathways. And it's only been in the last 15 years that we've discovered these. But for over 100 years, people use the willow bark extract from which aspirin is made to help. So now we've got this. Now we've got science doesn't use something it doesn't understand. Oh, sorry, science is contradictory. It does use things it doesn't understand. Many, many, many of the things that it uses, it does not understand how it works, but it does. Then it becomes exclusionary to natural therapies it won't use. Now we get into bias. So they won't use homeopathy. Well, a reasonable person says, what does it matter if you don't know how it works? If it's non-toxic and if it helps heal, then use it. Now you come to those people like myself who are saying, well, hold on a second. If we know that there's something in there that's causing it to work and it's not molecular, meaning it's not a molecule of something, there's nothing there, it's just water, then what is it? Then what can it be if it's not a molecule? Energy. Has to be the energy that was once the molecule. Now that's kind of scary because you're thinking, you mean there's something that's there that we can't see, we can't measure, we can't feel, we can't taste? That's right. Just like radiation. Radiation in this room right now, you can't see it, you can't feel it, you can't hear it. If you have a beeper, if you have a cellular phone, you're getting a microwave into your body. You can't feel it or see it, but it's there. If I turned on a radio right now with a heavy enough receiver, you could hear voices all over the world broadcasting. Well, that's what happens in every living cell of every single being and plant and mineral and animal. It is composed of molecules we can see and energy we cannot see.
More often than not, we are adapting to problems rather than transforming them. Our whole mindset is one of adaptation, and for good reason, because society can control adaptive behavior. As you overeat, you get a larger clothes size. As you get stressed, you take a tranquilizer or a drug or watch television. As we get lonely, we try to connect with people. So these are adaptive, but they're not going to change anything. I don't care how many experiences you have. I don't care how many people you're with. If you're not looking at how to transform yourself to match your real needs, these are just meaningless experiences. So then we have to pull back and say, okay, how can I really ask the question that's going to give me the answer I want? By knowing the question you need to ask. It's amazing how seldom people ask the appropriate question. If I knew that I could only ask you one question forever, do you think I'm going to ask you a superficial question? No. I'm going to ask, what is essential? What do I want? Because only do I ask for something and connect my energy to it is it going to happen. Have you ever been in one of those days where the day just seems to have everything connect in a good way? It just, everything happens. I have days when I know that every time I pick up the phone, something good's going to happen because of that phone call. And other days, you don't want to get out of bed because just nothing seems to be going right that day. I just one challenge after another. It's all about energy. Energy becomes real to you when you create the image of what you want that energy to do. But we don't think we have control over our lives. We feel helpless. In fact, most people seek security as a way of protecting themselves from
all of the vagaries and things that can happen out there. Gated communities, that's big. People going into a gated community, that's security. You know, finding security in your work. Stay focused on your work. So it's just the work becomes your security. A relationship becomes just all entwined. So the relationship creates some security. People are afraid of this world. They don't like the new. Most people keep doing the same thing. They go to the same vacation spot. They go to the same restaurant. They go to the same place to bowl. Or they wear the same kind of clothes. Or wear the same kind of hairdo. You can almost predict what they're going to say in a conversation because so little of what they share breaks that mold. And so what they really want, they're never going to ask for because they'll never believe that they can get it. How many times have you felt that you wanted to be someplace else, do something else, have a whole different sense of self, maybe in your mind visualized it, but truly didn't think it was going to happen, so you didn't put any energy behind it? For example, how many men first in this room have ever thought about doing something great as an athlete? Right? Like throwing the 100-yard football, right? Or hitting the longest ball out of the park ever. We think about these things. What's to prevent you from doing that? Well, adapt. Adapt. I'm too old, I'm out of shape, you know, I'm not as good as the guys out there. There's limitations. And Bannister, the miler, said that, and then he said, no, I want to break the 4-minute mile. And he did. And right after he did, boom, 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 everyone else did too. They were waiting for someone to transform a limitation. But it's in the transformation that we break free of the limitation. And once you break free of the limitation, then suddenly you have a whole different question you'd ask because you're not afraid of the outcome, not afraid of the answer. If I don't fear what you're going to tell me, I'm going to tell you what I really want. If I don't fear that you're going to judge me for being stupid or wrong, then I'll have the courage to say, this is who I am, this is what I want. But then again, adaptation means better not say anything that's going to get you into trouble, better not say anything that's going to make you seem weird, better not say anything that's going to seem like you're, you know, not normal like other people. And so we then think, okay, I won't say what I really want, I'll say what will get me accepted. We thought the so-called experts would give us the answers, but all these experts, these professors and scientists and public policy makers and religious leaders, we look around at the whole world, we see an awful lot of confusion and mess, and they have told us that it was right, and we trusted them, and it was wrong. We were lied to. And my brain will show it tomorrow. If I take on the right attitude and reject, do not accept what I don't want to be, then I will show it tomorrow. But that takes courage, standing up and saying, no, I don't want that energy in me. And I have a right not to have it. Remember, you have a right to reject any energy that doesn't honor you. But it has to honor me spiritually and emotionally and mentally, physically, creatively. And how much junk food of conversation have you taken in? Junk food of emotion have you taken in? Well, you can't live off junk food, you become obese and sick. And it's no different than the junk food of what we try to share. And you keep looking for some permanent relationship at some connection to create an authentic life for you. And there's nothing authentic in trying to create the perfect, perpetual life out there. And we were meant to have multiple stimulations. We were meant to be in the moment and experience life in the moment. But society can't handle that. Society cannot handle your freedom. It's too dangerous. The last thing society can handle is someone who has free expression, free will. It will challenge the very stability of every major institution in our society. So it has to control you, and it controls you through guilt and fear. Guilt and fear are the bookends that keep you doing the predictable and the damaging. They want you to drink the cola, even though your liver is going to be hurt,
your kidneys ruined, your stomach ruined, gastric reflux, because then they'll give you a drug or medicine to service you for something you could have prevented, and they help cause. First they create the disease, then they mistreat it. And then they complain about all the symptoms without ever looking at the cause. And that doesn't happen unless you're complicit. You have to give your power over, which means you're taking someone else's belief, allowing it to connect with you, and then vibrating your whole life. Your consciousness must exclude everything. You can only be myopic. You have to see only what the leader of your tribe says you should see and do. Even when intuition, the spirit telling you, speaking out, and you stop it. Even when common sense, you stop it, suppress it. Even when rational thought, you repress it and go upon belief, what you're connected to. And then one day you look around and think, whoa, we are a lot of people in denial of the truth. We thought the so-called experts would give us the answers, but all these experts, these professors and scientists and public policy makers and religious leaders, we look around at the whole world, we see an awful lot of confusion and mess, and they have told us that it was right, and we trusted them, and it was wrong. We were lied to. Look, a relationship is simply a passage, and all of life is a series of passages. And people are there to assist us in the passage. And some of those assistances are wonderful, and some are not, and some are painful. But it's just a passage. So pay attention to the passage you're in. And if you find that that passage is meaningful, extend it. If it's not, end it. Learn its lessons, forgive it, and surrender that energy. If you don't, then every relationship you've ever had becomes the new relationship you're in. So almost everything we do is trying to become someone else's point of validation. Always doing for others to get some response back. Think of all the chronic caregivers in our society. Underappreciated, overworked, people who die earlier than other people because their life is not their own. They're taking on the energy of the people they're caring for. How many times in our lives do we feel so underappreciated that we don't even know what to feel anymore? We walk around almost disconnected from life. Stop feeling that you have to be validated in order to be real. Doesn't matter if someone validates you. It only matters that you feel valid. What seduces us in our society? Let me hear.
Money.
Money seduces us. Why? What does money give us?
Power.
Power. What does power give us? Respect. Fame.
Control.
Control. So we equate money with control. What can we control with money?
People.
People. So you think. In point of fact, power is an illusion. Richard Nixon was the most powerful man in the world one day, and having no power the next. Where did the power go? Power is an illusion. It's getting someone to believe that you need them in more than you could do something for yourself, that they are superior to you. So a lot of what we do in our society is we position ourselves in the artificial structures of hierarchical orders. The dean of a department is more important than just a professor of the department. But the dean of the school is more important than the dean of the department. The teacher is not as important as the professor. The professor is more important than the adjunct professor or the associate professor. But who is to say who is the better instructor? Who has more knowledge? That hierarchical structure doesn't mean that one person is actually better at what they do than all the others under them. Think in education. Is the principal better at organizing or instructing or understanding than the teacher? Think in foreign affairs. Could anyone make a bigger mess of the world than the people who've run foreign affairs for the last 50 years? Let me think. No. We have a unique phenomena in our society of the stronger exploiting the weaker. Did we have slavery? I think we did.
landowners who founded our country, who then ran it as they saw best, for better or worse. It wasn't the poor people running our country. Who runs America? The powerful. Everybody masters something, right? They master their personality, they master their techniques, and that's what they sell us. But what do we get behind the strength? We get the weakness. It comes out inevitably. In every situation, the weakness will undermine the strength. So you can build all the illusions you want, but if the illusion's based upon a weak part of a person, it's going to collapse. We're dealing with energies that are vibrating in us, needing to attach, needing some fulfillment. The emotions, the love need, the security need, the exciting needs, we have all these energies flashing and we don't know what to do. So we look for a relationship, or we look for a different environment. We look for something to make a difference. But none of it's authentic, because we're trying to match something now with something from the past. We go to a resort, we go to dinner, we go to a ball game, we go to a movie, we go to a concert, and nothing seems to be exactly the way it was. Well, how can it be? That's the danger of living in the past. That's the danger of making choices about the past, as if the past is relevant today. The past is not relevant today. Today is relevant for today. I can't change the past, the best or the worse it was. No one can change the past. You can spend the rest of your life in psychoanalysis. It won't change anything. The only thing you can do is change the idea that the past is relevant to the moment you're in. When I no longer fear having to match my past with the present, and I'm fully aware of the present and I'm functional for the present, I can vibrate with it. So whatever I'm given, I at least can accept it for what it is. Do you know how many people are in relationships they can't stand, but would rather be in something they can't stand than in no relationship at all? Better to have some very distorted image of what a relationship should be than to have no relationship, because we're judged. Our self-esteem is, what, you're not in a relationship? And then you watch something like Sex and the City and they're utterly dysfunctional. They take the most gross and vulgar aspects of human nature and display it as if somehow that's a normal action. It's not. That's an abnormal action. Just like if only people that were talking about health were overweight people, then one day you're going to look and say, you mean that's normal to be overweight? No, that's not normal to be overweight. It may be average, but it's not normal. Or watching television, everything on the news is negative. Then one day we realize that maybe the news is just all negative. That's normal. No, that's what they made it, to get our attention, because if they didn't give us something that was abnormal and obsessive and toxic, we wouldn't pay attention to it. What if they gave us good news? What if they gave us happy news? What if they focused on people who were enjoying their life? And then we start realizing, well, who's going to watch it? You know, they're not going to put People magazine out with people that you don't know. Who's going to read it? You're going to read about Tom and Mary from Nowhereville? Common, just like you? No, you don't want to read about people like you. You don't want to go to a movie and see people like you. One of the greatest actresses, if not the greatest actress on the American stage, no one, I didn't even know her. But when I saw this wonderful movie, a documentary about Broadway and the golden years of Broadway, Stephen Sondheim and Ben Gazzara and all these men and women from the 50s, 60s, and 70s talked, all of them talked, the greatest actress is this woman. And why wasn't she an actress in movies? Well, because she went out to test for David Selnick, and he says, well, she's just a, you know, like a cleaning woman. But she was testing for a cleaning woman role. She did it so well that he thought she was just a cleaning woman. He was looking for an actress trying to play cleaning woman. She actually convinced him she was a cleaning woman. Well, hello, isn't that what acting is? But she did this on the theater, and she did it so well in the theater that people, experienced actors would go and watch her night after night after night after night after night. They never tired of her because of watching her method that they all tried to emulate, but she alone was that masterful. Now, think of it this way. Think of how many times we look at something in life and we don't even know what we're looking at because we've gotten so used to having someone alter what we're looking at and then try to convince us that it's something else. Giving us a fast food meal and trying to convince us it's a healthy meal. Giving us superficial conversation and try to make it authentic conversation and authentic communication. Giving us artificial beliefs and trying to make us think that they're legitimate. Politicians telling us what they want us to believe instead of what we should believe, and we're going along with it. So there comes a time when we get too lazy intellectually, emotionally, creatively, to look for the truth in anything. Unless you're willing to look for the truth in things, you won't have the resources to make the change. So the whole idea of having the resources to make change is to evaluate, do you have the determination to look for the truth no matter how deep you have to dig? Do you have the courage to stand up to a lot of the artificial environment and people and still keep your discipline to maintain your own balance, no matter how much anyone else wants to imbalance you or discourage you? Do you have the honesty to know when something is real and not real? Because those are just the basic standard qualities necessary to create a self-esteem that is authentic. That means when you wake up in the morning, what do you need for the essentials of your life? And once you have it, stop looking. I live in a building on the west side. It's a baby boomers from hell building. Everybody's yelling. My neighbor screaming the other day. I had to go knock on the door and says, you know, someone's going to call the police. Certainly someone did call the police because these people are always screaming and they're successful, but not successful enough to be happy. Because when you need something out there to make you feel good in here, there's never going to be enough to fill that void. And when you're trying to prove yourself, and we're a society that judges each other based upon our provings. Prove to me. Prove what to you? Prove that you're a loving person, a good person, that you can be trusted, that you can be honored? What do you have to prove? If you're insisting someone prove something to you, that's a relationship you ought not to get near. And yet we prove all the time. We prove we're tough, or we'll prove that we're going to get justice. Every time I see someone trying to get justice for something, I see another crisis. I see another problem occurring. Stop proving yourself. You don't need to prove yourself. You think you do, because society creates a standard that you're trying to meet. When they said, Gary, after this debate I did when I was just coming into the field of health and nutrition, it was down in Atlanta. And I was tired. I'd been on this long tour, and I'd gotten in there early in the morning off the red eye from Los Angeles. And I'm only like 24 years old. And I was there to talk about the importance of organic produce, or that's what I was told. I walk into the studio, and suddenly I see 5 guys with folders. And I said, what's this about? And the producer said, oh, the bloodletting's about to begin. I said, what bloodletting? Whose blood? Yours. I said, for what? Why? Well, these are all people, who think that your statements are radical and irresponsible. Which statements? That the sugar's bad and colas are bad and meat's bad. Well, who are they affiliated with? Oh, they're doctors. No, who, what? So I asked him, before we go on the air, I said, are any of you affiliated with Coca-Cola? They wouldn't answer me. Yeah. And it was all about protecting the special interest group. So when the show went on, do you have a PhD? No. Well, do you have a? No. Are you a? No. Well, what gives you the right to? I don't know. Why'd you invite me? So I argued with him on the issue of common sense. And they believed that because they had the MDs and PhDs, they were right. When we got outside, the guy says, look, you're never going to be taken seriously unless you get your degrees. I said, why? Well, we only take people seriously who are credentialed. So I'm back to school, and I got my degrees, undergraduate and graduate and doctorate and all the rest. But then you got to be a scientist, so I became a scientist. Well, you got to publish in I published in peer-reviewed journals. You got to make major discoveries. I made major discoveries. Discovered that the protein, amino acid composition of all vegetables and grains and a lot of other things. And
Yeah, but then you have to teach. I taught Fairleigh Dickinson, a lot of other schools. And then, what else do I have to do? Well, you don't have to do anything because we're still not going to believe you. Understand the game of proving. Someone who demands that you prove yourself is someone who will never accept you in any case. It's a game.
Many of us are afraid of being judged by others and of failing. And I think when you go beyond the idea of failing and succeeding and go into doing and being, you get beyond that.
When you're coming from your heart rather than from ego, it's easier to let go of insecurities. If we realize that even hardship in life is a strange form of gift, it depends on what you are looking for in life. If you're looking for a joyride and no problems, you'll be inevitably disappointed. But if you view the meaning of life as to grow as much as possible, then every obstacle presented to you is a lesson to be learned, and again, a strange form of gift.
We go outside of ourselves for our meaning. Where do we go for our meaning? Let me hear some responses. Where do we go to get our meaning?
Church.
Church? Yeah.
The movies.
The movies, sure. Yeah, a lot of people go to the movies. During the Great Depression, movies were very popular. A person's life was so bad, they wanted to see someone who was winning at life. They wanted to see people in glamorous positions because they wanted to fantasize and connect with that. Where else do we get our meaning?
Careers.
Careers give us our meaning. And what about the career gives you meaning? Only if you succeed. So success is equivalent to meaning. Where else?
Circle. Friends.
Friends and social circles.
Relationships.
Relationships.
Synchronistic events.
Synchronistic events. Think of all the places we think we have meaning because we have been acknowledged by someone else. I know people that if you ask them about themselves, they can tell you about their relationship, but they can't tell you about who they are because they have not developed themselves. They put all their energy into the relationship. A relationship should always be three entities. A person, and a third entity that is created, that shares what they choose to share, but never relinquishes the essential self. When you surrender yourself to the relationship, you no longer are yourself. And yet we have a hard time with that concept in our society because our belief system is you are the relationship. If the relationship fails, you fail. If it's bad, you're bad. If it's unloving, you're unloving. And then it's blaming and taking sides and getting vindictive instead of saying, look, a relationship is simply a passage, and all of life is a series of passages. And people are there to assist us in the passage. And some of those assistances are wonderful, and some are not, and some are painful. But it's just a passage. So pay attention to the passage you're in. And if you find that that passage is meaningful, extend it. If it's not, end it. Learn its lessons, forgive it, and surrender that energy. If you don't, then every relationship you've ever had becomes the new relationship you're in. One of the acknowledgments of how well you did in academia is like in high school, if you're an outstanding student, valedictorian, you might have 2,000, 3,000 students in your high school, but you were the one that got up there. You put in the time, the effort, the energy, and there was something that they sought that was unique and different and original. Then you go to college, and then you can graduate summa cum laude, magna cum laude. These are given to the people that they consider the best and brightest of them. And they deserve it. They don't just hand these out because you're popular. And then at the doctoral level, well, you get your doctorate because you've mastered something unique and contributed something unique to the field. They call it mastery field. But then one day, I'm invited to come down to supposed to be, at least from the email, a meeting with some of the other graduates who also have doctorates, mainly in education and psychology. And they're having a dinner at South Street Seaport in a restaurant. So I decide, what the heck, I'll go down. So I go down, meet a lot of wonderful people, and then I just think that's it. I'm about to go. The dean and the provost, the president, they were all there. And they said, now for the reason for this occasion. In the history of the university, we've never given out this before. This is the first time, possibly the only time, we're giving Outstanding Alumni Award for Outstanding Excellence in Scholarship. It goes to Dr. Gary Knoll. Whoa. I was so shocked. I was so surprised. I didn't know what to say, except to thank them, because it wasn't easy. I had a lot of contentious emails and phone conversations between mine and my faculty because they were very orthodox. They didn't, even when I would take peer-reviewed literature from the National Library of Medicine showing them the science behind alternative therapies, they didn't want to accept it. They were just that almost close-minded. So here's a question for the people at Wikipedia. Why don't you have that in there? Why don't you have anything honest about me on my bio? Anonymous people writing libelous information and I don't have a chance to correct it? So now the public knows the truth about my educational background. I just had never shared it before. Thank you all for taking your time, and if you find this video of importance, share it with others. And by the way, I have over 15 additional bios, outstanding achievement bios. Have a nice day.